Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining this talk tonight on determination and letting go. And thank you once again to the wonderful folks that show up here on Zoom and share wisdom and community together. It's really sweet. And lots of wisdom. Yeah. And thank you also for anyone that's showing up watching this on YouTube, and hope there's something of service for you here. At the beginning of this call, I made some announcements. So if you're watching on the YouTube, please check below. There's a link there for True North Insight to offer support to this nonprofit organization that organizes all our classes and this drop-in and many others, and our retreats and teacher trainings that are happening, etc. And right now there's a matching grant being offered by generous donors. So your donation will be doubled, which is fabulous. And it's a tax donation. There will also be a link down below for a New Year's Eve retreat that's coming up online that I'm offering. Check that out, and maybe you can join us in this time of transition in a different way than maybe is your norm, if you have a norm. Okay, so those are the announcements. And when was it? Our son was home visiting for a few weeks. He's usually off at university or traveling or tree planting or climbing mountains and jumping out of airplanes and whatever else he can find. And he just left again on, I guess it was, I don't know, Monday or something. And before he left, we had the opportunity to go climbing together at a place in Guelph called the Guelph Grotto, which is a wonderful indoor climbing gym. And they're going to be expanding, so it will be even more wonderful. And yeah, we just wanted to have a sense of what it's like, this thing that he does. He's really into bouldering, this kind of free climbing bouldering thing. And but he also climbs these sheer things. And they rate them. 5 means that it's kind of a sheer, like a flat wall of rock. And he climbs 5 12s, which is pretty challenging. And so we're at the gym, and we started like with 5 7 and 5 8, 5 9, and then biffed around some more, and then got pretty tired and I couldn't finish. But I was really, of course, the Dharma is always rolling in the mind and heart. And as we're climbing up this wall with these little handholds and even smaller footholds, then I was quite aware, determination came to mind. In Pali, the language, the teachings are written down in this. The word is Adhiṭṭhāna. I'll put that word down below in the YouTube video as well. And so there's this intention when you're standing at the bottom of the cliff or the bottom of the wall in this case, the intention to assess, what's appropriate, what's a skillful place to begin, and what's a little bit of a challenge. And then this determination, the idea is to touch the last handhold at the top. Sometimes they have a bell you can ring or something when you touch the top. And so, there is a definite kind of goal in mind, but also the goal can be different things of just like doing it skillfully or tracking a route in a certain way and only using the holds that are for that level. They're all color coded. And then, so it's not just about getting to the top, or it's definitely not just about being the fastest, although that could be a goal to do it quickly. So it's not so much determination is not necessarily about getting to some perceived end. It's the determination to keep going. Adhiṭṭhāna also means perseverance or will, self-determination, resolution. These are other ways that this word is defined. It's this setting our intention. And we were talking earlier about how for some of us, knowing your own system, and if it's helpful for you to have accountability with other people, like one of my buddies that's here on the call, we support each other quite a bit in like, okay, I'm going for a walk. Are you going for your walk? Let's, just to inspire or motivate ourselves to do these things. And so if you know that's how your system is, then use that, set that up for yourself. It's very helpful with the Dharma practice for some people. Some people have a lot of strong internal resolution and self-determination and have set that habit for themselves. And for a lot of us, it's really helpful to have a Dharma buddy or an accountability person that you're going to check in and say you've done and what you've done and chat about practice. You can also do that with a teacher. And I was really aware, like watching him do this bouldering stuff on a 512, which is very hard. The amount of effort and just doing one run up a wall. It's a tall wall, but come down like we were out of breath, drenched in sweat. Like it's really challenging, and he kept. This was a wall where he did have a harness on, and once he got right up near the top, there was one particular rock that was very hard to get a hold of, and kept popping off the wall, slipping off, and I was holding the rope at the bottom. Not just in my hands, but there's this whole system of knots, etc., and harness. And he was almost lifting me off the ground, trying to hold him as he would let go off the wall and rest. So there was times where he couldn't hold and he would let go and just hang in the air there and rest and rest and rest. And then he'd go back on the wall and go again. Over and over. I was like, oh my gosh, you better hit that rock at the top or come on down soon, because your old mother down here is, I don't know how many times I could keep doing that. But he did it several times, falling off the wall and resting, chalking his hands. And then he'd go back on the wall. And by the time he came down, he was really soaked in sweat and everything. It was impressive. And then there's this other thing when you do get up to the top. Well, there's two different ways. Either way, once you get up to the top, you don't climb back down the wall. You have to let go to get down. And there's this moment, when you're climbing up, you got to stick close to the wall. You tuck your body in close to the wall. You can't have your butt sticking out, or you're not going to stay on the wall. And so you're hugged into the wall, and you're pretty intent on staying tight with the wall. And then you get to the top and you have to let go. you have to lean back into like off the wall, no hands on the wall, and sit way back off the wall, just your toes touching the wall. So the person can let you down with the release, and you know, kind of come down with your feet touching the wall. But that first time, that moment, and actually for a few times until you get used to it, is really hard to just let go. And there's a trust there in the letting go. It's also very related to perseverance, because we need to know when to let go. And that's part of determination and resolution and self-determination and will, is knowing when to let go. And this was something that one of us here on the call earlier was sharing about, this wisdom of knowing when to let go, and how this is part of this practice as well. And it's a very important part of the Dharma. This Adhiṭṭhāna, determination, is one of the 10 paramis, they're called, the perfections. And it's really related to, it reminded me of there's a sutta called the Sona Sutta. I'll put that link down below in YouTube as well. And Sona is teaching, that's a person's name. And so this teaching is about Sona. And you may have heard of this teaching before in different versions of it, but might not have recognized it as this. And so this is someone who had left lay life or householder life, like what most of us may be living. We're not monks or monastics, although you may be, and welcome if you are. And so this Sona had left the home life to become a monk, and was a monk. And there's this description of this determination that Sona had so much that he was doing walking meditation in seclusion, barefoot in India. And this is a bit of a gruesome description here, but so determined, so too much striving, that after doing walking meditation until the skin of the soles of his feet were split and bleeding. And he realized, you know, he was working so hard at it, that obviously hurting himself and still not achieving his intention of awakening or freedom from peace. In fact, he was creating more suffering, right? By the way he was pushing himself. And so he goes to see the Buddha to receive some teachings. I mean, yeah, there's more to the story, but he and the Buddha end up in conversation. And so the Buddha gives him this teaching about, and also Sona was thinking, you know, what am I doing? Like, he says, he recognizes his own persistence and says, my family has enough wealth that it would be possible to enjoy wealth and make merit. What if I were to disavow the training, return to the lower life, enjoy wealth and make merit? Meaning that his family had enough money that he could earn his way into some freedom by giving offerings or making merit. And so he was thinking of leaving the monastic life because his striving was so severe and not producing freedom. So then he's in conversation with the Buddha, and the Buddha says, now, what do you think, Sona? Before, when you were a house dweller, were you skilled at playing the vina? And the vina is what we would call a lute, like a stringed instrument. And he says, yes, Buddha. And what do you think? When the strings of your, I'll just say lute, are too tight, is your vina or lute in tune and playable? No, it isn't. So anybody who's played a stringed instrument, if the strings are too tight, you're going to be off tune. We could say ukulele. And what do you think when the strings of your stringed instrument are too loose? Is it in tune and playable? No, it isn't. And when the strings of your instrument are neither too tight or too loose, but are tuned to be right on pitch, is it in tune and playable? Yes. And then he says, in the same way, over striving persistence. So too much determination, too much striving and pushing. Like if I kept pushing, trying to climb something beyond my limit when I was tired, I could get hurt or fall. I could hurt somebody else, etc. Or if I was supporting somebody else. So too much pushing is also unskillful. And then he said, overly slack persistence leads to laziness. So if we don't have enough determination, then we don't have enough to follow through on our intentions. So you may have heard of that kind of simile before about tuning the lute, not too tight, not too loose, and how this relates to our meditation practice. It's very much related to our actual formal practice, which we're going to do now and pay attention to. So it relates to your intentions and goals in life, your larger practice and your determination to practice and how you practice. If there's too much striving, you create more tension and more stress, more mental stress, or bleeding feet in this case. And when you go on meditation retreat, you often find this out the hard way by a lot of striving, too much striving, and just the nervous system gets all wrought and the mental stress over the top. But it's part of the process. So you just kind of go through that. And so it's really about, it's like when you tune an instrument, you don't tune it once and then it's done. You have to keep adjusting and tightening or loosening the strings to get that right balance. And it's the same in our practice. We need to keep assessing. There's a bit of dullness. I need to brighten up the attention. There's too much striving. I'm getting tight and tension and anxiety. I need to loosen up. So we're constantly tuning. Yeah. And letting go. Determination and letting go. So let's try it. Let's practice. Get comfortable. So when you're setting up your posture, keep this in mind with your posture. Is it a posture that's going to help you with wakefulness and uprightness, groundedness, steadiness? And can you let go in it? If there's too much striving in your posture, you're going to end up with a really sore neck or sore hips, etc. So I'm just going to change my posture here. You're kind of looking for the Goldilocks effect here. Not too hot, not too cold, not too tight, not too loose. And as some folks are practicing on the Zoom call with standing meditation, because they know their energy, they're already assessing, too tight, too loose, and seeing, oh yeah, I think it's going to help me to practice standing tonight because I'm maybe too tired or whatever their reasons are for doing that. Okay, so coming into stillness, you could even practice walking meditation back and forth within hearing distance if you're wanting to continue hearing the talk. In the way that Sona did, mindfulness of the sensations in the feet, slowly walking back and forth. So whichever posture you've chosen, now we'll just begin to settle into that. And even if you're doing moving or walking meditation, this settling is with the attention moving down to the sensations in the feet. And for those who are sitting or reclining, the attention is settling into grounding and stillness. And then letting go of any extra tension that you might notice in the area of the face or shoulders. And then relaxing the belly and hands. And feeling connection with the ground. So that in our posture, we're exemplifying and setting up the conditions for determination, Adhiṭṭhāna, and letting go. Letting go of any tension that isn't needed. And now checking into our resolve, this sense of resolution of our intention for stillness or settledness, even in moving practice or walking. Our intention to stay through to the end of the practice as much as you're able. And then choosing your anchor for your practice tonight. So if you're walking, your anchor is in the sensations of feet. If you're standing, the anchor is in the sensations of the body. And if you're seated or reclining, you could choose the anchor of your breath or a wider anchor of just feeling the body or hearing. So I'll be describing the breath, and if you're using a different anchor, just translate that for yourself. So this is like us being at the bottom of the wall and choosing what's the skillful route for us tonight, for our energy, our capacity, and what's the right level or practice that's going to support us tonight. What anchor? So whatever you've chosen now, just really let that settle. And so you're using your determination to not pop around and choose, maybe do a bit of this and a bit of that for the rest of this practice period, just staying with the anchor you've chosen. And right now we're just getting familiar with that anchor. So for me, it's the breath. My chosen resting place. Just feeling each breath as much as possible. Like mapping out the route that you're going to take on that climbing wall. Just getting familiar for a few more moments. And like the climbing wall, each hand hold and each foot hold step is absolutely unique. Different shape and size and thickness and position, rotation, different grips to it or lack thereof. And each inhale and exhale is the same. Absolutely unique. So that each breath you're letting your attention really feel the length of the inhale or exhale, long or short, smooth or rough, shallow, deep. And if you've stopped paying attention, maybe that's when you would be falling off the wall. Or you're still paying attention to each unique breath. You really need to feel each breath. Remembering to translate this into a different anchor if you're using a different form. And then as the silence continues, this is when we really begin to strengthen our determination and our skillfulness to see if it's like a stringed instrument and if you need to tune it up a bit, tighten up some of the loose attention. So just turning up the dial of attention. Adding some more brightness or joy, energy. And then noticing if there's too much striving, like sona, or if you notice that it's creating tension. Some people actually get a headache from meditating. They're working so hard at it. Or their shoulders get tight, or the jaw, or the tongue, or the fingers striving, working too hard to stay on the anchor. Then you can practice that letting go, back and down. Letting go, loosening up the strings, trusting, falling back into it. And then see if in that loosening up, you may be more able to rest with the breath. And then we remember that we need to keep tuning. Sometimes when we let go, it gets too loose. and our attention has just floated away. So we might need to bring it back in a bit. Begin again. If you notice the mind gets caught into other thoughts, plans, fantasies, regrets, just in the noticing is the opportunity to let go and begin again. And it's as the hindrances may be arising, restlessness or sleepiness, doubt, desire for something else, aversion to this. Now is when determination comes. Our determination to stay, to be still, to pay attention, and to let go. What can you let go of, and what do you want to train yourself to pay attention to right now? Beginning again. As the sutta says, over-aroused persistence leads to restlessness. Overly slack persistence leads to laziness. In a few moments, when I ring the bell 3 times, see if you can stay attentive to what happens to determination and letting go when you hear the bell. Thank you for joining us on this recording. If you've tuned in later, and I hope your determination continues to find its right balance and tuning, and hope to share practice with you again sometime.